Welcome back or welcome to the Graywolf podcast. I'm your host, Nate Reich. You are here because you believe disability is an inability. This podcast was created to tell Olympic and Paralympic athletes stories on the road to Tokyo and beyond. Today, for episode 17, we have our first triathlete on the podcast, the one and only Laurin Thorne. Laurin was born in Sydney, Montana, but grew up mostly in Calgary, Alberta. She found early success on the track, setting Western Canadian records within her first couple of races. At age 18, Laurin decided to make the next jump in her triathlon career by moving to Victoria to train with the National Performance Center. Her last 3 years have been challenging, but she keeps leaning into adversity, knowing there's something better on the other side. In the words from Mike Van Tighem, she is one of the kindest, most genuine people I've ever met, but also an amazingly tough competitor. Without further ado, welcome the ever so entertaining on Instagram, Laurin Thorne, to the Strides with Graywolf podcast. What's up, Laurin? How are you?
I'm great. What an introduction. That was really kind. Thank you for having me, Nate.
Oh, of course. How are you doing? It's such an honor to have you on.
I'm doing well. I just had some morning training and I'm actually done for the day now, so I'll be able to get some good studying in to finish my exams this semester. So it's going to be a pretty chill day, honestly.
That's awesome. You have your last one, right?
Yeah, my last one just for this semester will be on Friday, so just a few days away. Lots of time.
Dang. That's super exciting. And did you guys have a morning swim this morning?
Yeah, so every day of the week except for the weekends right now, just for COVID regulations, we'll swim and then hit up the gym right after the swim this morning. So it was just a nice couple session block together.
That's awesome. I thought like it would be a really fun way to start this by reading the text that Mike sent to me. So I'm going to read that really quick. And he said,
Okay.
so I remember she set the provincial records in the 1200 meters and the 2K as a midget athlete, but because they were relatively new distances back then, the provincial legion team standards were created ridiculously high. So she raced the 800, a shorter race that was usually, that is more speed based, not so much endurance based. And she ran crazy fast and beat the provincial team standard since the 800 meter was the event that had been around forever. The time criteria was based on many years of data, and therefore it was much more realistic than the newer events. Then at national, she raced all three distances. She would just never give up, and she has never given up. I thought that was a really cool text from Mike. And how does that make you feel?
Oh, I mean, Mike has been a very special coach that I had the privilege of running for 5 or so years in Calgary. And he really developed my love of running. I just thought he was the most genuine, had the most genuine soul. It just made me excited to show up. And I was just really proud to represent him as an athlete as well. So hearing that that's just so nice. that really sets a nice tone in my heart.
Yeah, I know it's always so funny because like people see Mike like more serious at track meets, and I'm like, man, he is such a goofball. Like he
Oh, yeah.
thinks he's so funny. He usually wants to talk about his running. Like every time my friends would talk to Mike, they'd be like, he'd just be talking about how his running's going, and it's so funny. He's such a good dude.
He's the best. I haven't seen him for a while now, but I hope our paths cross sometime soon.
Yeah, no, hopefully he'll come out to Victoria here soon. I'm sure he always comes in and checks on all of us people in Victoria. So hopefully he'll stop by soon. And in my research, I learned that you did your first triathlon when you were 3. What pulled you towards triathlon? I know that your parents did Ironman when you were small, but triathlon's not necessarily a quote unquote like popular sport, not like the big ball sport. So what kind of pulled you towards it?
That's actually exactly true. So when I was little, my parents were doing Ironman, so I was introduced to the sport just to know what it is at a young age, because you're completely right. It's a very niche sort of sport. You have to kind of know someone to get into it or somehow be introduced. So just for fun, in my local community, they put on a triathlon, and my parents just told me I was going to do it. Sounded kind of fun. And I was all suited up. I had my little pink and blue bike with training wheels. I had streamers coming out of the side, and to make it even better, I had a little basket out in front too with stuffed animals inside. I had everything just it was just ready to go.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And yeah, I think like I never actually like did triathlons. It was, especially at that age, it was just when the local one would come up every August, my parents would just put me in it just for something to do. So that's kind of, yeah, that was the, seems like so long ago now, but that was the intro to it pretty much.
That's so cool. And Mike texted me about your first try athlon bike, and he's like, she might not talk about it, but it was pink, like you said, had a basket and had
Yeah,
pink streamers on the handlebars, and that's just so cool, like a cool memory, where it all
absolutely.
started. That's awesome. And like Mike said, you had like such great success so early on the track. Did you ever think about going down that avenue? Did you ever think about that, or was it always kind of triathlon in your mind?
That's a really good question. So to kind of rewind the clock a little bit, I was put in swim club when I was 5 years old, and swimming never came naturally to me, especially at that age. I look at video footage back from then, and I was just awful. I just don't know how I even made it to how I swam those races. And I kept swimming in club actually until I was like 18, 17, 18. And when I came into junior high, so I think you're about like 13, 14, 15, that's when the schools in Alberta started to have track and cross country. And just out of pure interest, I decided to do cross country and the track team. And that was kind of the first intro that I had. I've never ran before. And in those races, it just came so easily to me, just purely based on swimming fitness, and genetics would have come into play a little bit as well. So after kind of those races, like the first ones I ever did, I had some like just city records off of those little school meets. And I kind of went to my parents and I was like going like, hey, this is like this seems pretty cool, like just off of nothing really. I seem to have this a little ability to run. What do you think about putting me in a track and cross country team? So I thought about it, and they ended up allowing me to go into those. And one of the best ones that we heard of was the University of Calgary Athletics Club, which actually had a few other triathletes in it at the time. So they put me into that, and I just loved it. Even to this day, I think running is by far my favorite thing to do. I long runs, track workouts. It makes me really happy. So, I mean, kind of what Mike said, it just came very naturally to me that even when I started just racing, I was able to get some records right away. And I mean, of course, anyone is in a position where something came so easily, like you're like, I just want to excel at this. I want to push. I want to see how far I can go. And my love of it never stopped either. So then throughout the years, it definitely got to the question of, do I want to maybe do triathlon? Do I want to do more towards track? And, even to this day, I love track. And a part of me is always like, what if I maybe took a different path? Like, one of those, what would it look like? What would it do? So, I mean, I chose the triathlon path and I'm so happy with it. A little part of me, I like to be on the track and run some of those events. But yeah, it was a hard split for sure to decide which path to go down.
Yeah, no, I can't even imagine. I mean, obviously I would never do triathlon because I can't swim. But that's a different story for a completely different time. And like you said, you chose triathlon, and at 18 you decided to make the move to Victoria to be part of the National Program Center. How was that opportunity presented to you? And what was those initial thoughts when you got offered this opportunity?
Yeah, it's definitely a good little story. So up until I was 18, so it would have been still like my grade 12 year. And up until that point, I was still in swim club, I was still in track. And during Christmas of that year, I was like, if I want to, if any chance pursue triathlon, maybe I should start training triathlon. Because at this point, I never biked. I didn't know how to like bike. I would just, whenever I did races in the summer, I would just hang on for dear life. But I just did well based on my swimming and my running fitness. So in the half of my grade 12 year, I actually stopped swim club. I toned down the track and I joined a local club in Calgary to just actually train triathlon. And just through the summers, I ended up performing really well. And that was the kind of on the national center. And at the time, too, they were kind of rebranding the whole center in Victoria. So they had new coaches, they had a new high performance coach, a new head coach. So at that time, they were just kind of recruiting people in. So at that time, they just came to me like, we have a position. Do you want it? And I mean, it's different now. Now you have to go through an application process, post your times, do time trials, all that fancy stuff.
Yeah.
But when I was getting in, there's like, we think you'd be great here. Do you want in or out? And I mean, that was the hard hit of like, do I want to stay in Calgary? Do I want to pursue something else, or do I want to give this a go? So I had to step back a little bit and be like, what do I want? Do I want to pack up right away and head out and try this journey? And it was kind of funny because I brought it up to my parents. They're like, what? Like, why are you even questioning this? This has been like a dream. Like you're like I don't know if you know the triathlete Ellen Pennock. I looked up to her so much, and I was like, I always want to be in Victoria. I want to train there. I want to be with the center. And the fact that dream was right in front of me, it was a bit surreal, and I actually was a little scared of it. But that's how I came here. And I actually, leading into coming to Victoria, I left, I had my last race in Edmonton, and I had all my stuff. I packed up and I just left to Victoria to start training and start university. So it was a very quick call, actually. I made it a very last minute one to accept the position in Victoria. So it all happened so fast, but I don't regret it at all. I'm really happy with the decision to come here.
Yeah, I know. And it's funny that just the journey that, we all go on as athletes. And, when I went to college, I thought I knew exactly what success looked like and what my experience was going to be like. And I was so far off. What was your experience been this far? And how has it gone versus how you thought it would go?
It's been nothing like I have ever imagined. For those who know me, so this is my 6th year in Victoria, and since being here, I've not put together a summer of racing. I've had a lot of setbacks, a lot of just injuries, sicknesses. To go into more detail, my first year here, I experienced a crash where I broke my collarbone, my shoulder blade, 2 vertebrae, my wrist, and a rib that went into my lung and punctured my lung with it. And when that happened, everything was on the right side. So when I was getting back into training, just at this time, I wasn't being watched by a coach, and I ended up developing a lot of compensation injuries that, as an athlete, I didn't realize because it felt normal, but I was just so crooked. I was so lopsided. So although took a while to recovery from all of those, I developed just more injury after more injury of just being so lopsided. I was not straight. And that just took probably like 2.5 years to recover from. So I'd kind of get ready to race, and then something would come up and I would have to step back, and then I'd get ready again and step back. And I think I didn't go 3 weeks without something else coming up because I was a complete mess. It was a really tough time. And going back now, my parents actually told me they didn't think I'd be able to kind of recover from this. I was just so broken. I was, at the time I was like pretty underweight as well. So I wasn't functioning. I didn't have the right nutrients. So that was a huge big setback, which I was not expecting for my first year in Victoria. And following that, I ended up getting mono for one summer. Of course, it came up right in the summer, so that took me out for another one. It's just been injuries. Last summer, I had just this big burnout happen where there was a lot of factors that just got a little too out of hand, and just I think my body just couldn't take it, and I just was not able to train without being so exhausted. But with all of those, the thing that I think is pretty interesting is each year I've been able to come back stronger and stronger. And I think that is pretty cool. Like, my bike has even progressed in the last couple years. Like, I haven't plateaued yet, which I keep telling myself is pretty cool. Like, there's something that's just more and more and more. And I'm just so confident that once I give myself the opportunity, once I can get healthy, once I can finally get my game into action, I'm so excited just to lay it down and just used all this bunched up anger and just throw it out on the race and see what can happen. So unfortunately, this past summer with COVID, I was finally healthy and actually would have been able to race. But due to the pandemic, it didn't happen. But just for me to go through a summer without injury, without illness was huge. So I'm so excited to see what 2021 is going to bring.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy to hear all that, and I mean, like when I got paralyzed, like in the moment, it was just right, like it just sucked. But like now looking back on it, it's the best thing to ever happen to me. What are the lessons that those injuries maybe at the time didn't seem great, but what are some of those lessons that you carry with you that you learned during those tough times?
I mean, I can't even imagine what you had to go through. That is beyond my mind.
I
So
appreciate it.
it's a bit different than what you've experienced. But one thing that I found is very interesting, and my parents have pointed this out, is when I came to Victoria, so I'm about like 18 years old, I was a very, very strict person, very strict athlete. I just didn't want to have fun. I was just so like, this is the biggest deal ever. So strict with my eating, so strict with every single thing I did. And I would get anxiety if something didn't go right. It was that kind of perfectionist kind of line trying to deal with that. Like if I had a bad swim, I would just kind of go off and like, I'm the worst athlete ever. Like I don't deserve to be here. And it wasn't until I had that crash that I talked about where I had to learn, I was kind of forced to let go because I had no control over kind of the healing process. I had to kind of sit, wait for everything to heal. And I don't know if that just broke me so bad, but in a good way that I had to let go. I had to detach the strings and I had to just breathe and wait and relax. And it's funny saying that I think if that didn't happen, I'd still be a very different person than I am today. And it's crazy that something bad happens, but I'm honestly thankful that it did. It taught me to fight more. It just to deal with the resilience of, it goes wrong again, it goes wrong again. So when is it going to go right? And just the drive to keep fighting for that. And everything that's happened has just taught me to have so much patience, but also the confidence that I come back and I'm coming back for a reason after, you have an injury, you come back. And if you didn't have your reason why, then you probably wouldn't come back. So it's that faith that you have in yourself. It's that belief that like, I'm going to be really good one day. And yeah, I am just from everything happening. It's definitely changed like who I am as a person and the things I recognize in other people and other athletes. And you can see like the deep down stuff that has made people like who they are. So I think everything that has happened has just given me a different realization, a different perspective, kind of overall just like change in how I see everything.
Yeah, patience. I feel like patience in an athlete is so interesting because we
Yeah.
want these results now and we have to perform on demand when it matters. But at the end of the day, we have to look at that long-term approach. And especially during COVID, like that, I remember in 2018, we had our longest season ever. And I was like, oh, I'll never have to do a long season like that ever again. And then 2020 hits, and I'm like, ah, just kidding. The next year, I have to do the same exact thing. And so, it's funny how that patience works. Has that patience component been pretty tough for you during this time? It's been extremely tough for me for sure.
Actually, it's funny that you say that. I think I'm in a very different boat than a lot of athletes who have been used to having the race seasons happen. Because I've seen that with my own team when there's no race that we're striving for in the summer, you can see some people start to alter a little bit, kind of lose that motivational side. And it's funny to say that with all the setbacks I've had, they've been a huge positive in teaching me just that patience because haven't raced for I haven't put like a season together for so long. So a lot of the time I am just training in the summer with no goal, like with no end goal happening. I don't have any races coming up. So for me, honestly, this just felt like a normal summer, which is awful to say, really. Um, but I just didn't question it a lot. I just, business as usual. If things happen, great. If they don't, we're just going to gain fitness. It was just finding those little positives each day, like the whys. Why am I doing this? What is getting me out the door? You know, if worse comes to worse, I'm going to become fitter, even if I don't race. So it was just a lot of those, writing little things down, just putting them where I can see them in the day, just to give the self, like, when you head out for a session, you just dread it. You don't want to go. So I was doing everything I could to kind of find an opposite situation to that. Just get ready, get excited, and just get ready to just give it in those harder summer sessions with no racing coming.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's tough, but at the same time, like you said, if you connect with that why, and that can either be a personal one or something that's bigger than yourself that helps you get out the door every day. And what is your why, and has that evolved since, when you first got here?
Ooh, that's a good question. I have to think. I think when I first came out to Victoria, my why was very, very more broad. I don't think I knew totally what I was getting into, what to expect. It was new place, new atmosphere, coaches, everything was new. And I think my why to come out here was, in the very big scheme, was I want to be an Olympic athlete. So it was just kind of a very big thing. There was nothing specific. I was just, I want to go from point A to point B. And now when I find my little why am I doing this, it's very much in little, like a lot more sub minor goals. Even as simple as when I do recovery in the evening, I roll out. Sometimes you're too tired just to even go roll. But the whys are, if I don't do this now, if the progression could be more tighter. Injury, it's always like injury prevention. This could make me a bit looser for tomorrow's session. It could make tomorrow's session go better. I'm just helping myself. The little whys, I've had a lot of struggles with eating, and it's, why am I doing this? I'm fueling so I can be better, so I can perform better, because I don't want to suffer in these sessions because of something that I could have done better. And all those little whys are building up to the big goals that I want to race. I want to, perform well for my country. I want to make myself proud, to feel like I am actually successful. So it's a lot of, I still have a big goal of an Olympic athlete, but I've been able to narrow it down, even in simple things like in the pool, just working on this one little swim technique. Like, why am I doing this? To be more efficient. Like, just picking it, very picky in these little aspects, even the little technical things throughout the day. Just those little things to add to the big goal.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how these little goals are so beneficial because for me, I write that end goal winning the Paralympics, but I write it to
But
forget it. Like I don't even want to think about it.
yeah.
So I'm like, what am I going to do today to make myself better? Am I showing up on time for practice? Am I communicating with Heather? Am I, doing all these things? And it's funny, like I feel like sometimes if you get so focused on that angle, it can almost be distracting and other people may see it the other way. But yeah, I found it's been very, very distracting if you don't have those everyday goals.
I totally agree with that actually. And I feel like any athlete has maybe sometimes they focus so hard on a big goal and it happens and they end up underperforming. But then they have those times where maybe they're just more relaxed, they're super chill about it, and they end up having their like best race ever. It could be I find that happens all the time.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And talking about really good races, I saw in 2016 you won the Triathlon Junior National American Championships. That's a mouthful. In
Yeah.
Sarasota, what did it feel like to execute somewhat of a race plan? I assume you executed it well. And was that kind of a confirmation that moving to the hub was a great thing?
Actually, that's a really interesting story of a race. On paper, there is absolutely no reason why I should have won that. Um, Going into this, so I came into university pretty underweight, and I joined the cross country team. And during that, my goal was, I want to be competitive amongst these girls. So the lighter I am, the faster I'm going to get up these hills, and I can prove myself and I can run faster. Just a very typical naive thinking. It does not work. Clear to say, anyone that has ever had those paths, it does not work. So don't even try. And I got to a point um, with my triathlon training that my coach told me I could not show up to practice anymore because I was too tiny. And I would just drive myself into a deeper hole than I already would have been because I lost a lot of muscle mass. I wasn't swimming well. I wasn't biking well. Mental health wasn't great. I was very anemic because I was restricting a lot of eating. So I wasn't allowed to come to practice anymore until I worked with a nutritionist, was able to put on a little bit of weight. And this was like 4 months going into that race where I wasn't doing any intensity. He would set me off for 30-minute runs, like hour bikes, just to keep my body moving and not forget those movements. But I wasn't training. Like I wasn't fit. And about 3 weeks before that race, we were in a camp in Arizona and we were doing some time trials, like a 3K on the road and like a 400-meter swim. And I just did awful. I was like a minute and a half slower in 400 meters in the pool. My running, it was awful. And at this camp, they had most of the Canadian coaches there. So it was just the most embarrassing thing. They're like, oh, this girl's in a national center and she just time trialed these times that are not acceptable for this type of work. And I'm sitting there going like, I don't want to race in Sarasota. I'm like, are you seeing this? These times are awful. Like, I'm not fit. I'm not ready. Like I went to my coach, Donna, at the time, and I'm going like, man, like, are you actually going to make me race this still? Like, we are all seeing these awful results happening right now. But he's like, like, we'll just calm down a little bit. We can go through the race even just as, get out there and race. So I just had dread, but I was like, all right, like we're racing, you know, every time you get a race opportunity, it's a time to go, it's time to get ready. So I was going like, all right, like I'll do it. And my parents were actually going to come and watch. And I said, don't come. Just don't. Like, save yourself the money, save yourself the trip. Don't come. You don't want to see us. And even the day before the race, I was doing some priming with my teammates and I was getting dropped on the bike. Like, just not a great situation for how you want to be set up. And even that night, I talked to my coach and I was just like, again, like, oh boy, like, how do you how do you think I'm going to go tomorrow? And he's like, you may not be ready a week before the race. You may not be ready the day before the race, but race day is something different and you never know how you're going to go. You don't know who is going to show up and how they're going to go that day. So anyway, the next day, warm up goes and the race starts. And to my surprise, I find myself swimming in second, coming out of the water. It's like, well, this is interesting. Like, this feels very easy. I'm not like straining myself. But I'm like, okay. In my mind, I'm like, check. Thank God this swim is done. I only have to suffer through 3 more disciplines. Like, can I just hang on? So we get onto the bike, and I'm honestly just hanging on. Like, I haven't biked, and especially going into the center, I never biked. So my bike fitness is very, very, very subpar. So I'm honestly just at the back, barely rotating and just staying on. Anyway, so the bike gets done and I'm going, okay, that's another check. That's done. I have to just run 5K. That's it. I can hopefully do that. We will see. So I rack the bike and I get out pretty fast of transition and I just sprint up to the lead people right away. And there's 2 American girls running side by side, and I just decided to kind of run behind them, but in between them, so kind of on both of their shoulders. And about like halfway into the race, I'm going like, this is feeling really, really easy. What is happening? And even during the race, like I was like, this should not be happening. There's no reason this should be feeling easy right now. I was honestly like, what? This is bizarre. And I was like, all right, like I'm here, I'm in the race. It was clear at this point, this was the podium, us 3. So we kept running and we stayed in that position probably until I would say like 500 meters from the finish. And I realized, and I was like, if this is the podium, I might as well just try to win. Like, what am I going to lose? I'm going to come third. And there was a little bit of a hill up until the last like 500 meters. And I did a classic athlete check. I listened to how they were breathing, and I could tell that they were like they were on the rivet. So like if I'm going to go, I got to go now. So without even thinking about it, I just put on the gear that you learn from track. Like, the bell goes on your last lap of track and you just go for it. So I started going, and my initial thought is, oh God, like I went too early. This is not good. But just kept my head down. I was like, I cannot look back. Like, I bet they're right there. And I was just going. Then we had some little downhills into the finish, so I used that to my absolute benefit. And I could not believe it when I was heading onto the blue carpet, the finish line, and I turn around just a little head, and that I had won the race. And again, there was no reason. I was not fit enough, but it's just crazy what can happen on race day.
Yeah, no, race day, nerves, race day, all that things that go into race day. It's crazy, and you never actually know what's actually going to happen. And I think it's super interesting. Like I always say, like it's like a painter's palette when it comes to performance. There's so many different things you have to pull on certain experiences or certain situations. When did you really click together that you need to really fuel properly, and that there's also that mental side of racing, especially in a endurance event, because there's probably always going to be a moment when you want to stop, or when you're hurting. When did those kind of 2 components click in your head?
For the nutrition side, I've struggled with this quite a bit. Kind of the first year that I started just like cutting more weight because I wanted to be faster, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I didn't know there was going to be any big negative to it. I was naive, I was unaware. No one ever talked to me about any of this. When I came into Victoria, after my coach talked to me and told me to set up with a nutritionist, like I realized that I was definitely light, and I should be starting to eat more, but it was in such a habit that even I knew what I needed to do, but I wouldn't do it. It was one of those, it was a habit. It was such an addiction to not want to fuel properly. I kind of like, it was a mess. And I wish I could say I was able to figure that out right away, but even like last year, it's always in the back of my mind, and I don't know if I'll ever fully like get over it. I think that feeling is always going to be there of like, I need to fuel, I need to like force this in right now, even if I don't want to. And I think it just took me to break over and over again, like just having those awful times where my body just will shut down, to finally realize and that I don't want that to ever happen again, and that to be successful, because I want to be successful, like I had to just take a step back and just kind of look at myself and go, why am I doing this if it's just hurting me? And I think every athlete who has had to do something like this has just had to realize that, like, it's not going to help you. Like, it's just going to make you weak, more prone to injury, and that's not what you want.
Yeah, no, and it's weird
Yeah.
that like sometimes pain is the biggest motivator, and sometimes I wish it wasn't that way, but it seems like us athletes, we just want to bang our head against the wall until we can't do it anymore.
Yeah, and I hate that I was that way. I had to, you have to like suffer it over and over and over again until I learned that that I needed to change. Um, what was the second part of your question again?
The mental component, because obviously, during races, sometimes you really have to tell yourself like, man, I'm actually in this. Like I hurt, but maybe if
Yeah.
I stick on for another 100 meters, then maybe I can latch on and out kick them at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually seen quite a bit of sports psychologists just, over the years, because it is a huge thing. Like, even if you're training or racing, like, you get in that really like dark headspace sometimes. Like, you're in pain, you are hurting, like, you want nothing more just to stop. And it's like, how do you come around that? And it's taken quite a few, tries of different mental games to play with yourself. And that's one thing I always do. I turn it into a game. Um, there's so many little tactics that I use, and I think the biggest one, which seems so much easier said than done, is just those little positive, like just nothing negative.
Mhm.
And it can even be things of like, don't fall off, and that's in a very negative context, to stay on. I don't know if you can see, like, don't fall off, negative, and just those kind of subconscious little things that I would have never thought about until I was kind of told to rephrase what I was telling myself. I do a lot of just, just stay calm. A lot of things I focus on are just my breathing and my form, especially in running. When we're doing like longer efforts, I spend a lot of it just, okay, make sure I'm not just breathing high in the lungs, but I'm getting the full breath in. Like, don't tighten up. Like, let's stay calm. Let's stay relaxed. Let's keep the stride long. So I constantly am doing technique, and that's how I kind of diverge the pain. So I don't want to just constantly think like, ow, this hurts. I find different things to think about. And I used the distraction tactic a lot too. If I'm racing and I might see like a car go by, or, I choose different things to focus on, even though, your head's in the race, but it's just kind of little like things to kind of just break it up a little bit. And that's been the most successful for me. I also do a lot of counting too, like, even counting your steps, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, just enough to keep thinking of something. But it's taken a lot of practice as well. Just, I mean, as everyone knows, to find that kind of happy place that you can get to, and how you can just turn I'm not like, this is hurting, to, okay, I can do this. And there's a very fine line where you can just flip and change that mentality. And it's a huge game to try to figure that out, because everyone's different. Everyone's going to respond to different stimuli. So it's it's a long game to play.
Yeah, I know, and I swear by mental performance. I think it is like the greatest thing
Yeah.
to ever happen to athletes. I think like when I noticed a huge difference when I started working with John at Pisces, and so yeah, it's just crazy like the benefits that you could receive from that. And let's go back to recovery for a second. I know how important like getting in something within 30 minutes of a really hard workout is. I know that you drink Rumble and you have a relationship with them, and so and I think it's really important to have something convenient that you actually like to drink or eat or whatever it is. So can you kind of share what Rumble is and why do you use that for your recovery drink?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you just touched on, like you do have this like half an hour kind of gap by after you finish a workout, which is the most crucial time to get some type of recovery in. And I find with me, when I finish maybe like a hard bike or a hard run, and I feel like you could relate to this, it's your stomach is sometimes not feeling amazing. Like if someone handed you a sandwich, you would not want to eat that. It's very, it's pretty fragile and you're like, I need to get something and I cannot just walk away from this empty stomach. But what am I going to do? And this is why I absolutely love Rumble, is because the easiest thing to get in is a drink. You can just put it back, and with Rumble, it's very organic ingredients as well. So you get your protein, you get like all the big nutrients as well. So it's one that will just like cover what I need, especially in that critical time of finishing the workout, which I think is the best way to do it. Because a lot of times, and in the past too, I finished a session and I probably haven't eaten for a couple hours because I can't stomach anything. So having a drink, having a liquid that you can just easily take down, and it actually like tastes good too. It's not like a nasty like some of those drinks out there. So yeah, we all know those.
Yes. Oh, just like you're drinking chalk. I'm like, man, I do
Oh,
not want this at all.
you're absolutely right.
Yes, absolutely. And so I think obviously to finish, I would love to talk about the present. Obviously 2021 is on the horizon. Tokyo is on the horizon. What does your next couple months look like? Are you going home for Christmas? And then what does January, February, March look like?
Yeah, so it has been an interesting year. So with Try, I guess we kind of start our year in maybe like September, October, because that's when the preseason should have ended by then, and we'll start over. This year's been a bit different just because we did go a bit longer. We were doing time trials. That was kind of our replacement of some racing that was happening. I think you might have done the same with your team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember talking to Mark like the day you guys are doing time trials.
Oh yeah. So usually at this time in the previous years, we've already started intensity on the run and in the bike, even in the pool as well. But this year's been very, very different. That we haven't been hitting it hard yet. We've just been doing very aerobic, just getting in the miles and staying healthy. So it is hard to say what's coming up next. I do believe the next step. I mean, we're assuming that races are going to happen. So I think once we start after Christmas and the New Year, we're going to start hitting those a little bit harder, which I'm so excited for. I love getting on the track. Like I'm ready to start pushing it, getting that hurt going. Because it's been a few months now. We're just those long grinding. There's nothing exciting. There's nothing to just get you going. So hopefully those are happening. And I'm really lucky. I've grown up in Calgary, Alberta, and they just are in quite a bit of a lockdown right now. But I am allowed to go home for Christmas, and that is what I'm going to do. I am going to go home for about a week, and I shorten that time because when I come back to Victoria, I have to self isolate for, I guess, about a week because I have to wait for a COVID test to come back. And, in that time, even in Calgary, there are no pools open. When I'm self isolating, I won't be training with my team at all. So I wanted to shorten that a little bit because that is a while to be out of the pool. I find for me especially, I lose that feeling so quickly. So I wanted to just, it sucks that I have to shorten that, but I'm so lucky that I'm even able to go home because a lot of people are not right now. So I mean, my parents are completely okay that I come back early, but yeah, talked to quite a few people, even on my team, who aren't going to be going home this year. So I'm extremely lucky I can see my mom and my dad and just have a nice little Christmas.
Yeah, definitely. Do you guys have any training camps planned? I know a lot of the triathletes go to Arizona to train. Do you guys, is that in any of your guys' plans?
Yeah, usually, in the past couple years, my team would head out like in February. Some people are there longer. With this year, it's so hard to say. Usually, like a couple people in my group right now usually are in Arizona for for the whole semester, for the whole winter. It seems that this year Victoria just might be our base, just to stay as healthy as we can, stay in our little niche. It's hard to say what's going to happen. It hasn't been relayed to the athletes yet. Of maybe even like some of the races coming up as well. Like we know a couple, but as far as I know, I think we're just going to stay in our little bubble here in Victoria.
Yeah, yeah, I guess we all are kind of in the same boat. I feel like our federations are trying to plan things, but they're just slowly being taken off. So, um,
Yeah, is
yeah,
that the same for you? Are you is you
we're
swimming?
supposed to go to Bermuda,
Oh
but
wow.
that just got canceled 2 days ago, and then I have to get reclassified. So I'm supposed to go to Dubai, which shall be quite the experience.
Dang. Yeah.
So yeah, so looking forward to that. But yeah, it's just a lot of the same for sure.
Mhm.
So now I have 5 rapid fire questions. They're all fun, not
Okay.
really sports related. Um, so the first one is, if your life was a movie, what would be the title?
Oh my gosh. Am I supposed to answer this fast?
You don't have to. You can think about it.
Um,
I always say it's rapid fire, and then everyone all like even when I answer them, I take forever. So it's fun.
oh my gosh. Oh, that's hard. Um, uh, I'm drawing blanks on like words. um, my title. Um, don't look backwards.
Love it, love it. And obviously, us athletes travel all over the world. What is one of your favorite destinations that you've been to?
um, Actually, this wasn't from triathlon, but I had a swim meet in Germany, and it was just the coolest place because I got to go with my a lot of my really close friends and teammates, and this we had so many pastries, and it was so good.
Where in Germany did you go?
um, Bad Bergenberg.
Okay, cool. That's
I don't
awesome.
know, I don't think it was that far from Frankfurt. I'm not too sure.
Cool. That's awesome. And then is there one place that you're hoping to either travel or go train in that just seems cool?
Oh, definitely. Australia is one that I really like to go. Um, I think another one is Spain. Just I've heard their beaches are very, very nice too.
Spain is awesome. Yes,
Yeah,
Spain
so
is awesome.
I'm hoping at least maybe in the next couple of years I'll be able to go hit those ones up for some races too.
Yeah, that'd be super fun. And since it's holiday season, what is one of your favorite Christmas traditions?
Ooh, usually on Christmas Eve. Yeah, it'd be Christmas Eve. We go over to one of my uncle's house and they have like a lot of food and we just play little Christmas games with my grandparents, like kind of host them and they teach us all the rules and everything and we just kind of chill out there until it gets quite late and then we make our way home. I mean, that unfortunately won't happen this year, but we're planning to do something over Zoom. So we'll see how
Of
that works.
course.
Yeah.
And then my last rapid fire is, what's your favorite Rumble flavor? I had to ask you this. So
Oh, definitely easy chocolate. I am even with, ice cream flavors, anything. I can branch out a little bit, but always my core one is always chocolate.
Awesome, awesome. I love it. I have two final questions that I ask all of my guests. First, where can people find you on the social media?
I think my most active one is Instagram, and it's just at Laurin Thorne. Nothing special, just my name. I'm not too active on, I actually have deleted my Twitter, and Facebook is not too active either. So Instagram is your best bet.
Yeah, you were very, very funny on Instagram. It's definitely I definitely enjoy following you. So
Thank you.
make sure you follow Lauren on there. And then the last final question is, what do you want your impact to be on the world?
I think one of my deepest impacts I want to have is to show younger female athletes that triathlon or just sport in general is a viable career option. It's something you can actually pursue and go far for. And to be just someone that people can look up to, someone that maybe, they go, this person's pretty cool. I want to be like them. Realize that you're going to have a lot of setbacks in whatever you decide to do, but you can figure it out one way or another and just keep going. And I hope that that can maybe inspire some people out there.
Absolutely. And I think that's a perfect way to end it. Thank you so much for joining me and putting that with me for 15 minutes. I know it's not easy, so I appreciate it. And good luck with your training.